Hello everyone, this video is offering using pandas to clean a data set that is going to be used for later tips and tricks about pandas, such as applying a function to pandas data frame, how we do loop through pandas, and also group by. So this video is setting up the stage for the next videos, basically, by also teaching you how you could go about cleaning a data using pandas. So let's get to it. So the data set we are working with is air quality data. So the first thing we do, we import pandas. And here, as you remember, I'm just setting the options to only see maximum rows of 6 and maximum columns of 10. This is just to set my preference as far as how long I want the pandas to show the print for. I will be providing the link to this data set so you can download it and then follow along. So once I run this, now I have the data set here, and of course I'm saying df.head, and I'm only seeing the first 5 rows of this data set. So there are a couple of columns here, so let me go ahead and maybe say df head 20, and you can see that because the max row is 6, it's, even though I'm saying 20, it's not showing all of those things. So I'm going to go ahead and change this. And now I can see all of these things. And you can see it appears that some of these rows never change. Some of these columns that are never changing. The site, the units, provisional or ratified, these are not changing. So for us to check that, we can do this. We can see the unique values of each of the columns and see if those unique values are more than 1. If it's just 1 for those things, it means they are redundant. So we can see that the site only has 1 unique value, and also provisional or ratified also only has 1 unique value. Because of that, we go ahead and use the drop function to drop these columns. So we go ahead and drop it and they're gone. But once we run this, we see that the df still has the site and the ratify. But what's going on here? We see it here correctly, but we don't see it here correctly. We did go over this on one of the previous videos, but what's happening is the fact that this drop is a function and it returns a data frame that does not have those 2 columns. It does not change the data frame itself. For us to be able to do that, there are 2 ways to go about this. You can either create a new data frame, so you can keep track of it, call it df2, or you can just say in place true. It means whatever you're doing to this new data frame and spitting it out, also change those things in the original data frame. For us to not waste a lot of space here, I'm going to return this back to 6. So now, once I run this, now I only see 6 of them. And that's just going to be helpful as far as seeing, just a little bit of, so we can compare stuff here. So those are the new 2 different ways that it's going to do the trick for us. So yeah, that's the question, and we already answered it. So here we also want to start working with strings and seeing how they can be helpful in cleaning the data. Here we have a reading date time, and the date and the time are just sort of in the same column. And what that means is we don't have accessibility. If we wanted to I don't know, do a Boolean mask over the time, we would not be able to do that. So one of the things we could do is use a split function. Go to the collections of string functions and use the split function to separate these two pieces of information, pieces of data from one another using space. So you can see there is a space among all of these. So once I run this, now I can see that all of the dates and times are separated from one another. So one thing I could do, I could put this into a date time, and it sort of gives me a series. And for me to make sure that what it is, I can like use the function type, and it's the series. Another way of doing this is saying expand true. Once you say expand true, instead of giving you a series, if you have more than one output here, it's going to put it in a data frame. And that might be just simpler for the purpose of what we want to do after. So this is a data frame, and we know the first column is date and the second column is time. So we go ahead and change the column's name. So now we have date and time. And now, as I said, now we have sort of like access to different times. I can say create a Boolean math based on the time. I only want to like keep the 01 or like 1 a.m. time, and then use that to only keep the data that are only 1 a.m. So you can see all of the data that is showing here are for 1. It's because of the Boolean math we just created here. So before we move on, let's talk about this question here. What I've done here, I created a Boolean mask based on data frame date time 2, but now I'm using that Boolean mask to sort out another data frame. And it's working well and it's making sense. But how come was I able to do this? So stop this video and give this a little bit of thought before continuing to watch. So what's happening here is the fact that these two data frames have the same numbers of rows. And also they have the same indexes, actually. They do have the same indices. Because of that, whatever Boolean mask you create over the rows are going to be applicable to from one to the other. And that's what's happening here. And the next thing we will learn is how we can join different data frames. It's very simple. You can basically say df join, and instead of having these two data frames sort of separate from one another, you can join them together. The only thing that you have to pay attention when you join data frames is you want to pay attention that you will get an error if your data frames you're trying to join don't have the same indices, basically. The same number of rows and exact same indices. If they don't have it, you're going to get an error. So once we do this, we get a new data frame that has date and time. But since we see, there's some redundancy of information, like waste of space, we can go ahead and before putting into the new data frame, we can also drop the name, the column, reading date time. And it just, just get rid of that repetition for us. Another thing we want to do here is that these times, there are a lot of, extra strings here that are not useful. So we know there are 24 hours. Why not we change these time to 0, 1, 2, all the way to 23? That will just makes it easier. So what we can do to do this is use the function replace. So for example, I say I want to replace the 00 colon 00 by just 0. Once I run this, all of the one that are time are just going to be 0. 00 colon 0 is going to be 0. and that's helpful because now we won't have to say 0, 0, colon 0, 0. But we only just took care of one of the options. What about the rest of them? So the best way to really go about replacing multiple possibility is using dictionaries. Dictionaries are a data structure that Python has, and it allows you to basically have a dictionary-like data. So you have a key and value pairs. Your keys need to be unique, as in you cannot have more than one key, but your value pairs are just what is going to be associated to the key. It doesn't matter what they are. So I created a dictionary here. I call it replace dictionary. I'm just saying wherever you see 0, 0, colon 0, 0, I want it to replace with 0. Wherever you see 0, 1, colon 0, 0, I want it to replace with 1. And once you have this dictionary, you can simply say, I want to replace the time using this dictionary. And you just say, I want to replace that, and then it will take care of that for you. So all of your time is using replace this dictionary to create that. One question you might have here, what are these slashes here? They're actually backslash. What are these backslashes here? These are simply telling Python that you want to go to the next level, next line, but you are going to keep on the same command line. So you can write more than one line of code. That's basically what you're doing here. It is better than copying this 24 times, but still this is kind of awkward to type this out. And imagine your possibilities were millions. Where are you gonna type out all of those millions numbers? So one of the things that you could do is to create this dictionary using loops. So the next line of code here that I have here, this is a combination of inline for loop and an inline if condition that allows you to create the dictionary I just saw. So this is just like one line of code and you have the same dictionary. So if you want to learn about inline for loops, and you already know about inline conditional, but if you're also interested to learn about inline for loops, I highly encourage you to sort of practice more to be able to be more comfortable with them. I do help you here with showing you the equivalent of that inline loop with an explicit loop, an explicit if condition. So this is basically the same thing. So I'm saying I want to replace dictionary, and I am specifying the key and also specifying the values, specifying the keys and the value pairs, specifying the keys and the value pairs. And with that explicit function, it's going to spit out the same dictionary for us. But here, I was able to do that in inline for loop. This is not something direct about directly important about data analytics, but this is a very useful programming technique. So I encourage you to go online, find some practice and some hints and helps about inline for loops. Basically, they're going to be very useful for your programming skills. So I can simply now with the same dictionary, I can just replace that, and it's just going to be giving me the same